Okay, hello. So I'm just gonna check we're broadcasting. Hello, Trev here. I'm just checking that everything is working okay, and then we're going to start our first lesson, sort of live lesson on YouTube for 2025. So I've not really done this before, so it's a little bit of an experiment for me, just to see kind of if it works. It seems to be working, which is really good, and hopefully you can see what's happening and hear it, sorry. So if you want to drop any comments, then please do. And we're going to talk about bar chords today. So bar chords are very useful for all types of guitar and also ukulele. So I'm going to show you what a bar chord is. I'm going to show you on different instruments. I'm going to show you where it might be used and how to move it around, and also importantly how to get a good tone and not to hurt yourself. So hopefully this will work as a recorded lesson as well as a live stream, but it is live, so I thought it would just be quite nice to do a kind of a live lesson, a little bit sort of different. So first of all, maybe I'll just show you kind of, this is an F major bar chord, and possibly before we get fully into the bar chord idea, you can kind of think where a bar chord has kind of come from. So if we look at that shape, you've kind of got an E that's been moved up, and then one finger has been placed sort of all along the strings to kind of get you a little bit higher. So if we look at our E chord, first of all, so you could play E like that. If you were to move it up, I mean, it sounds quite Spanish actually, but it doesn't sound overly nice. You've kind of got to move every string up, which means that the open strings also need to move up as well, and you get this bar chord sort of sound. So let's go back to the other view. So you can see this is quite a nice diagram I got off someone's website. I'll put a link to his website on in the descriptions later, but you can see the red notes are kind of the root, and then you've got the fifth and the third. So don't worry too much if that's not helpful, but you've got the root, fifth, root, third, fifth, root. So all of those tones are needed. Okay, you might see sort of power chords just using the roots and the fifths. That's what a power chord is if you take away the third. Okay, so when you're practicing bar chords, the first thing I would suggest doing is sort of separating out the bar, which is just the kind of pushing on the strings, and start developing the strength of your finger. So let's put that camera back on so I can kind of show you. So this sort of bit, so you can actually see some lines just where I've done some practice of bar chords, isn't really used to being kind of pushed. Like if you actually remember starting original guitar, just playing chords and things, just normally you probably got lines in your finger there. It's the same when you start doing bar chords. You're going to get some lines and you're going to get sort of this building a kind of a callus. So don't expect an amazing sound straight away with your bar chord, but you want to put your finger right the way across, okay, and then sort of push into the guitar, into the kind of body of the guitar. Your thumb kind of goes behind, sort of in the middle of the neck, and sort of adds a bit of pressure. And I kind of, one of the reasons I wanted to make this lesson is because I think I was doing bar chords and putting a bit too much pressure on my thumb for a long time, and it did actually start hurting my thumb joint. So your thumb joint is actually probably the most sensitive joint in your hand. So you're kind of more like pulling into the guitar. So you're kind of like pulling in, and you can also sort of hold the body of the guitar and sort of doing that sort of thing. And then I would encourage you to sort of go through each string one at a time, and you might get this sort of sound where you got some that are strong, and especially around your knuckle, they might So with practice and shaking your hand and releasing the pressure, you might get a few more tones, and then shake it around again, and then you should get all of the tones, hopefully. So the other thing I'd say is, just with the bar, practice it on some different frets, and you'll find some of them easier than others. So if you think of the string, the middle of the string is sort of around 12th, well, it is exactly the 12th fret, but somewhere around there is going to be a little bit easier to push than right on that first fret. So F isn't really the best bar chord to be starting with. You're probably better off starting with sort of an A or a B, but the shape is an F. And if you look at all the books, they'll always say the F shape, but really strictly speaking, we should be thinking of the E shape. So it's the E shape moved up with the bar down. So you can move it all the way up. And the advantage of this is you've got a movable shape. So you can kind of play all of the chords just by moving it on to different frets. I've got a couple of people viewing. Thank you very much. Do write in the chat if you would like to ask a question on bar chords. But so I'm using a kind of an acoustic guitar at the moment with steel strings. I'll show you some different guitars in a minute. But yeah, so just to recap, we're doing our bar and we're doing the shape of an E moved up. So when you're doing that E shape, it's important to sort of keep your first finger free because you need to move it, and then you put that back on. What's really great about this as well is if you know your E shape and you know, say, for example, E minor, so you'll have to re-finger it, you can also move that up and get F minor. So you've got your E minor shape, F sharp minor, G minor, G sharp minor, A minor, etc. So you've got all of those just from like a couple of shapes. Or if you know your 7 chord, your E7 chord, which has a kind of a hole in the middle, and move that up, you've got F7, so you can see, and then F sharp 7, G7. So it's really useful to be able to move the shape with a bar chord. You've got lots more capacity, but also some chords, I'm going to say, a kind of are only bar chords. I mean, there are ways of kind of playing open strings with your thumb and various things, but things like, for example, G sharp, or you might have seen sort of C sharp and B, which I'll talk about in a minute, but F sharp, these sorts of chords, you kind of need a bar chord. So I'd say at some point in your journey of learning, you probably need to master the bar chord. And it is a stage where a lot of people get frustrated with guitar because it takes a lot of building the strength of your finger. And like I say, you want to kind of really be doing a bit of practice a few times a week, or 3-4 times a week, or every day if you can, just for a little bit, and then that strength, that callus on your finger will build up gradually. You don't want to hurt your finger. So yeah, I was just going to talk a little bit about capos, because you could say, well, actually, if you're moving everything up 1 fret, why don't you move that and put a kind of a clamp? And that is what a capo sort of is. So you've got this device where you kind of clamp it on, and beginners often, so I use Justin Guitar books a lot. He doesn't really do a lot on bar chords, if I'm honest. He does a lot with capos. So you're changing the key and you're doing sort of more open strings. So there I've got C sharp, D sharp, G sharp, you know, rather than doing G sharp with all these bar chords here. You could use a capo, and I did just want to show you a couple of different sorts of capos. So here we've got a capo with a little kind of clamp and a wheel. I really like this one actually because it kind of clamps sort of on quite quickly and then off quite quickly. That was a really nice one. I like that design. You get some other designs a bit like this where it's more like a spring. Don't mind this one as well. So these are capos that, as you can tell already, it's not got quite the same precision, so I've got to like move it around. If you are using a capo, you need to put it right near the fret. And back to bar chords, it's the same principle. So you're putting your finger right near the fret. If you put it near the back of the fret, You've got to push ever so hard, ever so much harder. So do yourself a favour and go right near the metal fret, and you'll find it's easier. If you go over the fret, you get that sort of sound. So behind the fret, as near as you can get. There's another one. This is sort of the same sort, but a different colour, a little bit cheaper. You also get ones that kind of wrap around with a bit of sort of rope. When you're starting guitar as well, like if you're thinking, okay, actually I've only come to this lesson because I want to learn the F chord, and it's only really for some songs, and you know, that's going to sort of really frustrate me, you can do sort of what I would call a squashed up C shape to play F. So if that's a C, you can move them across. And the important thing there is just not to strum all of the strings, and you will get the sound of an F. It's still an F chord, but it's just the kind of the top bit of the F. And then if we add the bottom bit as well, we've got all of our strings sounding. You've got that nice low tone. The fingertip's really important as well. So you've got your fingertip there, and later on we'll talk about the kind of the A shape or B bar chords, and where that fingertip is. Your fingertip tends to be the strongest part of your finger, and round the knuckle is potentially where the problems might come. And yeah, like I say, when you get your F chord, every string, so you can hear that knuckle there. So you know, it's quite a workout really, and like I say, you can move it to a different fret. And do that, go through each string, don't ignore it, but also don't kind of give up. Don't give up. It's basically a strength thing, and it's a practice, so small and regular. Shall I do different instruments? I think I'll do some different instruments before I do the other. There's another set of chords from the A as well, but first of all, so that was a kind of an acoustic, electroacoustic guitar with steel strings, but we also might have, for example, a classical guitar. So a classical guitar with nylon strings. I would say classical guitar is actually sometimes harder to do a bar chord because the width of the neck is often wider. Okay, so you've got to put it on softer on your fingers. And again, you want to be careful with your thumb. Don't push too hard with the thumb, and also just experiment with where the thumb is. Because you might find it feels nice in a different place, and that kind of thumb joint, just be mindful, be careful with it, and then you should get a nice F tone, and again you can move it round, which is the point of it. So move it one fret up, F sharp, 2 frets up, sorry, well, move the F 2 frets up onto fret 3. So what we'd normally say is a G chord. And also in classical pieces, you might have just sort of a bit of a bar. So you can get sort of different sort of stretches and sort of more going on. So classical music will have, I don't have a particular example actually, but a different sort of use of bar chords. So worth persevering if you play classical guitar as well. But possibly the most common is on electric guitar. So you've got kind of this rock sort of sound. Possibly the easiest. I'd say maybe classical guitar is the hardest, but electric guitars are almost designed for bar chords because it's so easy to push it down and sort of move it round. Well, I say easy, once you've practiced in comparison, and then again we've got our F chord there. Same thing though, so do practice one string at a time. Get all the tones, and also, yeah, separate out the bar and move it around. Maybe let's show you a different chord. Oh, what have I done? Oops, there we go. A B chord. So two main sets of bar chords. So one based on the E shapes, so E and E minor and E7, which moves up to F. So people often talk about the F chord, but it's sort of an E shape moved up. And the same, the B chord. So the B chord is the A shape moved up. So if I just show you an A chord, I always play A like that, but some people, again, this is just in guitar, not sure about that. So, but if you've got big fingers, you might have to do it that way round. Or a bar. There. But if we move that up, the same thing again, we've got kind of this problem of moving all the strings up 1 fret, so like that. It's not actually quite as hard as that because we don't need the bottom string, so we can kind of move that one up to there and then bar from the 5th string. So you've got a bar across there, and this diagram puts third finger like that. Is there like a double bar? So 1 like that, and we can move. But basically you've got an A that's been re-fingered and moved up. I think it's very common actually to use 3 fingers in a line. So it's possibly less common to do a double bar, although I quite like doing a double bar. I sometimes use my little finger to do a double bar and see what works for you actually. I think putting 3 fingers like that is probably a good thing to practice, and then moving it up again. So you've got C sharp, D, D sharp, E. Don't worry too much about the names of the around the fretboard for now. You can deal with that once you've got capacity. Oh, I've got a bit of latency. Oops. How do I get my latency back? 1, 2. There. Has it caught up? Hopefully my lips are in sync with the guitar, but if they're not, again, this is why I'm testing a live lesson, and hopefully you can still hear as well. I don't think there's any comments. Let's have a little look quickly for comments. Don't think I've got any comments. A few people watching, but no comments that I can see. But yeah, you're welcome to drop comments after as well if you've got any comments on bar chords, particularly for this lesson. So on an electric guitar, it's the same principle. You've got your hand with the thumb behind the bar. Don't push too hard on the thumb because you want to preserve the thumb strength, and you're kind of pulling more into the neck with the bar, like so. And you could, as a little practice, change from your E shape to your A shape, like that. What was I going to say? Like I mentioned, so because you've moved the A up, you could also move A minor up. So if the A minor shape moved up to sort of second fret, you get a B minor, like that. So kind of moving the shapes around can unlock quite a lot of different chord shapes, and the same with the 7. So an A7 with that kind of hole in the middle, moved up, B7, C7, and such like. B flat is a very, very useful one. So sharps and flats, so sharp is going up 1 fret, so you often have like C sharp, but if you're going the other way, so C, B, B flat. Okay, so again, don't worry too much about the theory behind that, but so flats are often sort of used when it's sort of going down, shall we say. So E flat is another common one. So E flat would be on fret 6 with an A shape, and you're barring across to the 5th string, so you've got your finger there, muted string. So I would say you don't play that one. You just pluck from those 5. So you can either kind of put a little mute there if you wanted to, or I tend to find like the more you do it, the more you kind of just get used to not plucking that string. Or I think if you wanted to, you could bar that string as well, or sort of mute it a bit with your finger a bit. But yeah, just have a little play, move it around, see what feels comfortable. So B chord, an A chord, moved up. Okay. Yeah, so I talked about the thumb position. I think the thumb position is probably the most important. And yeah, I've been doing it for sort of 10, 15 minutes. And yeah, I can feel my wrist just getting a little bit, not sore, but a little bit, I can tell it's worked. So it's sort of also important that if you're doing sort of lots of intense work on the bar chords, that you kind of release your hand, give it a shake, relax the muscles. Yeah, and that's sort of a really good way of doing it. Sort of do a little bit and then relax and then do a little bit more. And obviously if you're in like a kind of a punky band, or something that uses, you know, and you're doing a 2-hour set with predominantly bar chords all the time, you've got to build up to that. Okay, so as beginners and people that are learning the instrument, do short and sort of gaps and regular, and that's the way you'll build up your stamina and your strength for your bar chords. So yeah, A shape and E shape. Yeah, you can move other shapes. So you could have a D bar chord. It's just less common. So I've got a D chord and I've moved it up. And the same with a G, although you'd have to sort of refinger it quite a lot. That's very stretchy. But again, you can do it. What often happens is if you do move, say, a G shape, you tend to just move a bit of it. So so like the top of a G shape. So like a D shape, like the top of a D shape, although that's quite similar. So learn your E's and your A's very well, and then move them up and strengthen your finger. So we'll talk about ukuleles actually as well, because I know some of you are learning ukulele that I teach, and I think I did another video about the links between ukuleles and guitar, and basically the ukulele is like someone's put a capo or a bar on the 5th fret. So it's already high, and if I play that, which is derived from the G shape, makes the sound of a C chord. The same sort of thing happens if I move that up and put a bar down. D chord. I don't really like playing with plectrums for the ukulele, but it's a little bit of a stretch. So we could think, well, what about C7? I've got a little bit of latency again, so hopefully I can stop the latency. I don't know. There we go. It's caught up. Sorry if it's lagging. Like I say, it's a little bit of an experiment for me. Let's take that off. That doesn't really help. Let's go on there. Okay, so so that's a C7, which is derived from a G7 shape. And then if we move it up 1 fret and put a bar on, so C sharp 7. D7. So D7 is the first one you might have seen in a book. So you don't have to play D7 like that. You could play D7 like that. But bar chords are useful on a ukulele for the same reason. You can move them around. What's another shape we can do? A minor. Which is derived from E minor shape on a guitar. So, and if I move that up, what would that be? B minor. B flat, and then B minor's there, and then C minor. You can see, so, you know, it's nothing like a C. It doesn't, in terms of its shape, if you're playing ukulele, C chord, C minor, but we need a bar chord. A lot smaller, of course, so you've not got as much stretch. Same principles apply though, so build up your strength gradually. Thumb goes behind the bar, but you're not super hard pushing. It's not like a big pressure clamp because of the thumb joint. And the same with all of the tendons actually. So just sort of be careful, like if you notice it's been working while you're learning bar chords, rest it, you know, relax the tension. And then when it's feeling ready, repeat. That's that's how you're going to build up your strength and your stamina. Okay, so I hope that all of that was useful, and I hope that the latency it didn't bother you. I hope you could hear it. And like I say, I'll keep this as an online lesson resource as well. But I will do some more live lessons, I think. And if you put anything in the comments that you would like to see live lessons on, hopefully we can have a bit more interaction as people get to know about it. You can kind of write comments and I can reply, but people are writing comments or giving me feedback sort of during the week, so to speak, which is fine as well. But sometimes it's nice to do it kind of as a live to and fro, which we can do as well another time. But yeah, hopefully you found that lesson really helpful. I was going to say, I've got a beginner guitar course on YouTube. I did it in lockdown, so it was a while ago, so when I was sort of just starting to do my YouTube channel. But that has got everything from a beginner. It's probably got a bit on bar chords as well in that. But if you've not seen it, then you can have a little look at the kind of introduction to guitar, and there are lots of other guitar resources and some ukulele. I've been doing ukulele more recently. Bass guitarists, I've only got 1 or 2 bass guitar lessons. They don't tend to really use bar chords, but it's going to be similar to a ukulele, mainly because they don't play chords. I mean, you get occasionally you might have a bass player doing a fifth or something. So, you know, the principle of pushing more of your finger down sort of still might apply, but yeah, so cool. It does say there's a comment, but I can't see it. But apologies if you've written a comment and I've not replied to it. And like I say, I will get to it after the live stream. And yeah, see you in the next video. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.